Hi, my name is Mike. Thanks for joining me today on my channel, Technically Church, where I share over 20 years of experience in audio, video, lighting, and multimedia. You can always find out more on my website at technicallychurch.com. Let's jump in. Today we're going to talk about buses, matrices, and mains on the Behringer Wing. So today I'm using a Behringer Wing full-size console, and I do have this console on firmware version 3.0.5. So this video will not apply if you're running the console on a 2.0 firmware. You have to have 3.0 or above for what I'm about to say to apply, at least with the matrices. So this is an update to a previous video. I did a video prior to the 3.0 firmware, and I explained this, but it has changed so much that I needed to redo this video to re-explain how this is working now, because that video doesn't make any sense. So, buses, matrices, mains. You can use them in different fashions, but I'm going to give some examples of, typically how you would use these features. It's also important to note the order in the processing chain. So buses are first, then mains, and then matrices. So that's going to become important later in this video on what you can send where. So it's really important to note the order and when you're deciding what to use for what things. Buses. Buses typically, and everything I've always worked with, are always groups of channels. So they would typically be used for bands wireless in your monitors, for instance. So you would group do a submix, a sends on fader mix of all the channels, send it to bus 1. Bus 1 goes to your band members' in-ears. So that's one of the big uses. It's often used for reverb and delay, for vocal reverb, vocal delay. You can send multiple vocal mics into it, process reverb, and then send that out to your mains. I also use it, so I use the Behringer P16 personal monitors, which are limited to 16 channels, which can be a little challenging at times. So I use buses to combine certain things to send to the P16s. Otherwise, I'd run out of channels. For instance, I combine my entire drum kit into one drum bus, and I send that to the P16 monitors so that I cut down on my channels. And I'll do the same thing with stereo sources sometimes to combine them and put them in. So that's essentially a bus, is a group of channels. You can then send that bus upward in the chain. So you can send a bus to a bus. So you can send one bus to another bus. You can send a bus to a main. And you can send a bus to a matrix. Okay? So you get all those options. So on the wing, you do have 16 available buses. So let's move up the chain now to the mains. On the wing, you have 4 mains. This is a little new if you're coming from maybe the Behringer X32. You didn't get more than one main, so this is pretty cool. Mains are very similar to buses. They're meant for your main outs, so your front of house PA, maybe your subs. If you're doing aux-fed subs is an old term. Maybe your live stream. So these are examples of how I use it. My main 1 is my front of house PA. My main 2 is my subwoofers. So I have those. I only have certain channels sent to the subs, so I do that differently, and I can control the sub volume differently than my main volume. Some people don't do it that way, and that's okay. And then I also run my live stream as a main. I'm essentially running that as a post-fader mix. Okay, so those are my 4 mains. So you can run sends on fader with mains. You can send any channel to it. And again, so you can send a bus to it. So you can send any channel to it, any bus to it, and then the mains can be routed out of the board. Okay, so that's your options there. Then we hit matrices. Matrices are also a combination of things on the board. Now, in firmware 2.0, you could not send individual channels to a matrix. It had to be a bus or a main going to a matrix. They've now expanded that. So a matrix is very similar to a bus, and I'll explain the one big difference. But a matrix can now do sends on fader. You can send any channel on the board to the matrix, as well as a bus to a matrix and a main to a matrix. So everything on the board behind the matrix can be sent into the matrix. You can then route that matrix out of the board. You can do some processing on it. It has insert channels, slots. It has an EQ, so you can do processing on that mix and then send it out. The big difference on the matrix is that it cannot be sent to the mains. Because it's after the mains, it can't be sent backwards to the mains. So the biggest difference for me personally here is I wouldn't be able to use a matrix for my reverb, okay? Because I need the reverb to go to the mains. So I wouldn't be able to do that. So I need to reserve the buses for that. I could use a matrix as an in-ear mix. So I could free up some buses and use matrices as in-ear mixes if I needed that capability. There are 8 matrices on the wing. So to summarize, you get 16 buses. Channels go into buses. Buses can be sent then to a bus, a main, or a matrix. Mains, you get 4 mains. All channels can be sent to a main. All buses can be sent to a main. You can do all that with sends on a fader. Then you get matrices. You have 8 matrices. All channels can be sent in. All buses can be sent in. All mains can be sent in. You can do processing. You just cannot send a matrix backwards to the mains. Hopefully that helps illustrate what a bus is, what a main is, and what a matrix is on the Behringer wing. Thanks for joining me today. Again, my name is Mike. You can always find out more on my website, technicallychurch.com, or on my YouTube channel, Technically Church. Look forward to seeing you soon.